morning. Good morning. How y'all feeling? God is so good. So good, so good, so good. First, I would like to honor Pastor Sylvester and his lovely wife for their thoughtful invitation. I have known them for many years and was working with the dancers for some time. And most of y'all I know from Port Barry. My grandmother and grandfather worked at the elementary school for years. My grandfather was the principal, Wesley Jones, for many years. My grandmother taught there for 32 years, so I'm grateful to be connected to that community who have brought me up my entire life. My grandmother still lives across from the school. And my entire family. And I don't take the platform lightly. And I also want to acknowledge my husband, who is my pastor, Alicia Rollins, in his absence, and all of the clergy here, and you amazing women gathered here. This is an amazing conference, and I'm already been so blessed by the time here. Before I get started, let's pray. God, thank you. Thank you for this day. Thank you for these amazing world changers in this room. And God, I just ask that you remove all of me so that I'm not seeing what you're seeing. That you just bless our time here. Let every word that I speak be seasoned with salt, God, and full of grace. In Jesus' name. Amen. Got my timer going. I can speak from experience when I say that what it means to be a woman has changed from early 90s when I was born to now. There was a time where the role of what it meant to be a woman was designated to homemaking and raising kids and taking care of children and making pie, keeping the home clean. And today those things are pretty much still expected of women, but we also get an opportunity to follow our dreams along with that. But there are some things that I've heard being a young woman that have kind of seemed contradictory to what I think we should be told. I've had people say, you need to go ahead and find a man. This is before I was married. While you're young, you know. I've had people say, you know, you need to go ahead and have some kids before your eggs go bad. Somebody actually told me that one time. And then after we have our children, we have to hurry up and snap back, right? We gotta get back to work. We have to show people how quickly we can recover from our delivery or C-section. We gotta get right back to work. But make sure you spend enough time with your kids, but don't spoil them. As you see, we have a lot of conundrums as women. We are expected to fulfill a lot of contradicting responsibilities. We're expected to love ourselves and have confidence, but what we see as being praised in the media, 90% probably is surgically enhanced. We're expected to have children, but we're not expected to look like it. We're expected to have our own money, be independent, but we're supposed to take full responsibility for raising children as well. We're supposed to abstain, but sometimes, you know, in society, men are encouraged to sow their royal oats. Of course, this is not the expectation of everyone, but it can be what society is telling us. In our own media, even in our homes, sometimes we reinforce these ideals, and until women recognize who we are in Christ, we will continue to fall victim to the burden of unrealistic expectations. Sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to be someone that we're not. We lose time and lose input, lose energy, putting time into things instead of we could be cultivating who God has called us to be. So the issue with this mindset is this, and I'm saying this with full confidence. The world is wrong. Does that mean that anything and everything secular is bad? No, of course not. Does that mean that anything that the world has is not well-intentioned and they don't have great people? That's not what I'm saying. Of course not. But when it comes to shaping who we are as women, the world's influence is wrong. In 1 John, the 5th chapter, 19th verse, it tells us, we know that we are of God, and the whole world is under the sway of the evil one. So why do we place so much mental and physical energy to impress a world that is influenced by Satan? How do we do that? Why do we let Satan's playground become our model for what it means to be a woman today? So the questions leads, kind of begs the question, how do we cultivate who we are as women? In your theme of marching forward, how do we do that? What do we use as a model for Christian womanhood? And so when I'm lost about my identity, God affirms who I am through His Word. There are so many women, and it was actually difficult for me to choose the women that I chose because there's so many women in the Bible, there's so many scriptures about women that serve as what I like to call breadcrumbs, calling us to who we are supposed to be. And today I want to take some time to highlight a few of those women and use those stories as a blueprint for characteristics that support biblical womanhood. Because as we march forward, we need to know, how should I be living my life? Who am I supposed to model myself after? And so I want to first turn to 1 Samuel 1. And I'm going to read a lot, so just bear with me. 1 Samuel 1. And we're going to talk about Hannah. And I'm going to be reading from the CSB version. It's a 6th grade reading level. My husband says it helps him out. So we'll start at the first verse. It says, there was a man from Ramathaim, Zophim, in the hill country of Ephraim. His name was Elkanah, son of Jeroham, son of Elihu, son of Tohu, son of Zoph, and Ephraim. And he had 2 wives, the first named Hannah, and the second named Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah was childless. And this man would go up from his town every year to worship and to sacrifice to the Lord of armies at Shiloh, where Eli's 2 sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were the Lord's priests. Whenever Elkanah offered a sacrifice, he always gave portions of the meat to his wife Peninnah and to each of her sons and daughters. But he gave a double portion to Hannah, for he loved her, even though the Lord had kept her from conceiving. Her rival would taunt her severely just to provoke her because the Lord had kept Hannah from conceiving. Year after year, when she went up to the Lord's house, her rival taunted her in this way. Hannah would weep and would not eat. Hannah, why are you crying? Her husband Elkanah would ask. Why won't you eat? Why are you troubled? Am I not better to you than 10 sons? On one occasion, Hannah got up after they ate and drank at Shiloh. The priest Eli was sitting on a chair by the doorpost of the Lord's temple. Deeply hurt, Hannah prayed to the Lord and wept with many tears. Making a vow, she pleaded, Lord of armies, if you will take notice of your servant's affliction, remember and not forget me, and give your servant a son, I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and his hair will never be cut. While she continued praying in the Lord's presence, Eli watched her mouth. Hannah was praying silently though her lips were moving, her voice could not be heard. Eli thought she was drunk and said to her, how long are you going to be drunk? Get rid of your wine. No, my Lord, Hannah replied, I am a woman with a broken heart. I haven't had any wine or beer. I've been pouring my heart out before the Lord. Don't think of me as a wicked woman. I've been praying from the depth of my anguish and resentment. Eli responded, go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant the request you made of him. May your servant find favor with you, she replied, and then Hannah went on her way, and she ate and no longer looked despondent. We almost finished. The next morning, Elkanah and Hannah got up early to worship before the Lord. Afterward, they returned home to Ramah. Then Elkanah was intimate with his wife Hannah, and the Lord remembered her. After some time, Hannah conceived and gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel because she said, I requested him from the Lord. So from the scripture, we can summarize that there's a man named Elkanah who has two wives. These wives are Hannah and Peninnah. And Hannah is the protagonist in this passage, and Hannah has a problem. You see, Hannah is barren, which at that time is considered to be the staple of a woman's work, their ability to have children. And because of her inability to have children, Hannah became the butt of jokes for Peninnah. And it said that Peninnah had become cruel to Hannah and would taunt her. So Hannah goes to the temple and prays fervently to the Lord and promises that if the Lord allows her to conceive, that she would dedicate the child to the Lord. God grants her request, and a son, Samuel, is born. And the name Samuel in Hebrew is Shem Ha Elohim, which means God hears, or heard by God. God heard Hannah. And Samuel goes on to be one of the great prophets of Israel and the final judge. He eventually anoints Israel's first king, Saul, and then anoints King David. The same David that's described to be a man after God's own heart. The same David that's in the lineage of Jesus Christ. The Bible describes Hannah as being dedicated and focused. A woman that fervently loved God, her husband, and had a deep desire to have children. And then you have Peninnah, a woman who has the one thing that Hannah wants and still manages to be unnecessarily cruel. Isn't that like real life? Doesn't it seem like the people that should be the happiest are sometimes the most miserable? Woman who seemingly is praying to God but has not received God's promise yet. And you have a cruel woman who has it all. So the characteristic of Hannah that I want to focus on today is her response to suffering. There are many things that Hannah could have done in this situation. She could have just been petty bad. They could have just had it out, right? She could have complained about it to her husband. Look, Elkanah, you got to get rid of her. She doing too much. She could have had an all-out brawl in the street. She could have fought the girl. But what did she do? Her response to suffering was surrender. And that's our first point. Your responses to suffering should always be surrendered. Hannah pleaded her case before God. Because we know that it's not our responsibility to put the weight of complicated earthly problems on our own shoulders. We can't handle them. Infertility is not too big for God. You have to respond to the hardships of life with reckless abandonment to the idea that we have to do this all ourselves. After Hannah surrendered, her prayers were not only answered, but she was able to birth one of the most significant prophets in the Bible. That was her lineage. That was her legacy. You cannot talk about Samuel as a prophet without talking about Samuel's mother, who brought him into the world. What if Hannah wouldn't have prayed? Just think about that. That was her legacy. And let me say this, I'm the first to testify that when I go through suffering, the first thing I do not want to do is surrender to God. I'm the very type A, controlling, micromanaged type of person. I just like to know what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. And I actually saw a meme the other day online that said, God, I trust you, but could you send me that tracking number for that blessing that you have? You know, can I get that tracking number? And that's like us. We like to say that we trust God, but we still need to know the how, the when, the why. How long will this affliction ail me? How long will I wait for this baby? How long will I wait for my marriage to get together? How long? Don't you see me, God? Don't you see that I'm praying? Don't you see that I'm not out here in these streets? I know you see me. How long, God? And nothing has changed, or it feels like nothing has changed. Can I tell you today that it's okay to let go? It's okay to say, God, I trust you. It's okay to surrender in your moment of suffering. And I know that there's something in your life that God has asked you to surrender to him, and you know what that thing is. It may be something as frustrating as infertility. It might be a ministry that you're supposed to birth. It might be anything, but you have a legacy that you are meant to influence this world with, and it should begin now, today, at this conference. The next biblical example I want to turn to is the woman at the well, and that's in John 4, the 7th verse. John 4, the 7th verse, and it says, so he came to a town of Samaria called Sychar, near the property that Jacob had given his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, worn out from his journey, sat down at the well. It was about noon. A woman of Samaria came to draw water. Give me a drink, Jesus said to her, because his disciples had gone into town to buy food. How is it that you, a Jew, ask for a drink from me, a Samaritan woman, she asked. For Jews do not associate with Samaritans, Jesus answered. If you knew the gift of God and who is saying to you, give me a drink, you would ask him and he would give you living water. Sir, said the woman, you don't even have a bucket and the well is deep. So where do you get this living water? You aren't greater than our father Jacob, are you? He gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did his sons and livestock. Jesus said, everyone who drinks from this water will get thirsty again, but whoever drinks from the water that I will give him will never get thirsty again. In fact, the water I will give him will become a well of water springing up in him for eternal life. Sir, the woman said to him, give me this water so I won't get thirsty again and come here to draw water. Go call your husband, he told her, and come back here. I don't have a husband, she answered. You have correctly said I don't have a husband, Jesus said, for you've had 5 husbands, and the man you now have is not your husband. What you have said is true. And so it goes down. I'm going to kind of skip ahead. And it says, the woman said to him, I know that the Messiah is coming. When he comes, he will explain everything to us. Jesus told her, I, the one speaking to you, am he. Just then his disciples arrived, and they were amazed that he was talking with a woman, yet no one said, what do you want, or why are you talking with her? Then the woman left her water jar, went into town, and told the people, come see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah? They left the town and made their way to him. So in this story, we see that this woman wasn't the most popular. She was known for being promiscuous. She was known for having affairs. And I'm sure when she came around, the ladies in her village held their husbands close. They probably looked her up and down. She was a pariah, and that's part of the reason why she was at the well at noon, at the hottest part of the day. It's possible sisters didn't feel like dealing with other people that day. I don't know. But whatever the reason is, she encounters this man who asks her for a drink. And now I want to pause here to examine the significance of this moment. Jesus is a Jew, and this woman is a Samaritan. Samaritans were people of mixed ethnicity. They were half Jew and half Gentile. And they did not have a positive relationship with the Jews. These two groups were littered with years and years of ethnic tension. Sounds familiar. Secondly, she was a woman. There are well-documented examples of mistreatment of women in biblical times. They treated women as inferior in this context and time. Lastly, on top of those two things, she was not just a woman and not just a Samaritan woman, but she was had a reputation of being a promiscuous person. But instead of shunning her, Jesus chose to drink from her cup. He chose to lean in. Now, I know when we read this story, it may seem like, wow, this woman was willingly sleeping with married men. If we met somebody today that we knew that were doing that, we probably would have strong opinions about that person's character. But what I want you to consider is that for this woman to have been in this situation and found herself in this situation, she must have had some deep-seated brokenness in her life. And what is brokenness? Brokenness is just a byproduct of sin. And let me make this situation a little bit more closer to home. I can speak from my own life. You know, I dealt with trauma in my own life growing up. I dealt with abuse in my own life growing up. And I never considered until I got older how many of the decisions that I made in regards to my dating relationships that stemmed from that trauma. Choosing to stay in toxic relationships, choosing to give my body to people that didn't deserve it, were all fragments that stemmed from years of trauma. And in the eyes from God, I am no different from this woman. And neither are you. We are all sinners in need of a perfect Savior. And what did Jesus do with this woman? Like I mentioned earlier, he leaned in, he called out her sin, yet he showed her that, woman, what you are searching for, here I am. What you are trying to sleep your way into, here I am. That happiness that you are searching for, here I am. That peace that you're searching for, here I am. I'm right in front of you and you can't even see it. The forgiveness that you need, I can give it. All you have to do is willingly choose me. And that's the good thing about Jesus. Jesus has the power, and God has the power to force us into submission, but he chooses not to. We have choice to choose him. And I hear Jesus echoing the same sentiments to the women of this age. Woman of God, stand up. I see you. I hear you. You don't need plastic surgery. You need me. You don't need more of this world. You need me. And what was her response to Jesus revealing to her who he is? It says, then the woman left her water jar, went into town, and told the people, come see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah? The people left the town and made their way to him. This is our second point. Her response to mercy was evangelism. One of the easiest things to do once we become believers is to fall into the rhythm of going to church, going to a women's program, going to Wednesday night service, but never actually telling people our story. Just think over the past month of how many people you've actually shared your faith with. How many people you've told your redemption story to. I have drawn more people to Jesus through my honesty than preaching or portraying that my life was perfect, because that's not reality. Reality is that God took a liar, fornicator, and deceiver and made her new. That is the gospel. That is the good news. That God is still in the business of making people new, and he's coming back for his people. And so I just want to highlight one final woman, and that's Esther, and that's in Esther 7. And y'all don't have to turn to it. I'll read it quickly. It says, the king and Haman came to feast with Esther the queen. Once again, on the second day, while drinking wine, the king asked Esther, Queen Esther, whatever you ask will be given to you, whatever you seek, even to half the kingdom will be done. And Queen Esther answered, if I have found favor in your eyes, your majesty, and if the king is pleased, spare my life, this is my request, and spare my people, this is my desire. For my people and I have been sold to destruction, death, and extermination. If we had merely been sold as male and female slaves, I would have kept silent. Indeed, the trouble wouldn't be worth burdening the king. But the king spoke up and asked Queen Esther, who is this? Where is the one who would devise such a scheme? And Esther answered, the adversary and enemy is this evil granted the position of queen. And it comes to her attention via her relative Mordecai that there is a plot to have all the Jews killed. The plot was orchestrated by a man named Haman. And Esther was Jewish. So she now finds herself in a position to advocate against this killing. And her relative reminded her, sis, don't forget where you came from. You Jewish. Maybe you've been put in this position for such a time as this. So Esther fasted and prayed and approached the king in humility and advocated for her people. She used her position of power as leverage to do something extraordinary. She became a voice for the voiceless. So our final point is that her response to power was service. You know what would have been easier for Esther? Just to keep her mouth shut. To say nothing. Because approaching the king during this time was actually risking her life. When she approached, there were certain times that you were supposed to approach the king, and she was out of order approaching him at this time. It would have been easier for her to not risk her life for the sake of her people, to accept the status quo, but she was a courageous woman, and we have courageous women here in this room. What did she do? She fasted about it, she carefully considered it, and then she acted. And her courage didn't just come from her being a brave person, even though she was. Her courage came from her foundation and her faith in God. Esther found herself in a position of power and in favor with the king. And she could have used it in any way. But she chose to wield that power to be of service to her people. So how does that connect with you? Each of you in this room has a platform. Each of you has a sphere of influence. You might be like me, you might teach. You might be a performer. You might be an influencer. You might be a stay-at-home mom. You might be retired. You might be a career woman. But how will you wield the power that you have around the people that you have been graced to influence? And I think about parents all the time because I have a daughter now. My daughter's 1. And, you know, I think about the opportunity, almost like I almost envy stay-at-home moms now because I feel like, man, you know, your sole responsibility along with, you know, taking care of the household is raising world-changing children. That's a responsibility. That's incredible. And I think about the importance of discipleship. We have children that are in our lives, my husband and I, and they have been a part of our lives for years. And specifically, this young boy named Carl, who's getting ready to graduate from high school, praise God. And we call him our son. He's just like our son, and Andrew. And anytime Andrew would receive some sort of honor, he would always say, to God be the glory. And that was his way of letting the person know that whatever you're complimenting, it's not because of me, it's because of God. And so my husband, if anybody who knows him knows, anytime somebody says, you know, oh, you preach really well, oh, that was a great program, that was great, he always says, to God be the glory. Why does he do that? Because he was discipled by someone. And Andrew never said, anytime somebody gives you a compliment, say to God be the glory. He just observed his life, and that has just become a part of his DNA. And the other day, and Larry's always says, he says, I say to God be the glory so the other person will know, but also so I will remember that it's not me, it's God. And so the other day, our son, Carl, our adopted son, you could say, somebody was saying, you know, you're just such a great student, you're this, you're that. Carl said, to God be the glory. And it was just like such an obvious depiction of how discipleship works. Because nobody ever told him that. He just observed it. And I'm saying that to say that you all have people in your life that you influence like that. And we even on social media, people tell me all the time, hey, I tried this restaurant because I saw that you went there, or I saw you use this skincare product, do you like it? I might use it or buy it. If we can influence people to do that, people to receive Jesus. If Jesus is supposed to be the most important entity in our lives, we should use that platform to be of service to others. And I want to end with this. God is positioning his women this year to make an impact. Our role as women is to use our gifts to create a legacy behind us. Hannah dealt with immense suffering in her life and used that as fuel to draw herself closer to God. The woman at the well had a past that many of us probably would have disqualified her to evangelize. But her testimony drew people to Jesus. And Esther used her platform for God's glory. These women are mirrors of the character that we should be cultivating in order to march forward in our lives. And I know that it can be difficult to be confident in your uniqueness in this world. I get our society does not necessarily glorify what is natural, what is unique. But you don't shy away from who God has created you to be. Because that's doing everybody a disservice, including you. You were created for this, and in whatever role you find yourself in, use it for God's glory. His purpose is so much greater than your own.